here. Okay. Here we have a video from that one dude who's awful, Owen Benjamin. He got banned off YouTube, I think, at some point, but people re-upload his stuff.
There's 9 planets, right? According to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
There are, I don't know when this was originally uploaded. This is a highlight, but there are 8 planets. Pluto is now a dwarf planet.
Alleged rapist. They're all spinning in the same direction. You know the odds of that? 2 to the 9th power. 1 in 512.
Let's see. Orbits of the planets. Do. How about this? Why do the planets all revolve the same direction? I don't even know if that's actually the case. The entire well, here we go. Why does Venus revolve in opposite direction around the sun, different from other planets? Actually, Venus and all the planets revolve about the sun in the same direction. Most of the planets also spin about their axes in the same direction. This consistency came about because the entire solar system was formed billions of years ago in a giant cloud of dust. The dust cloud was initially spinning slightly, so when the gravity pulled the dust together to form planets, they were all spinning in the same way about their axes, as well as revolving the same way about the sun. So there you go. The exceptions to the spin rule are Uranus and Venus. We believe that they were initially also spinning the same direction, but then huge asteroids hit them many years ago and changed their spin. So that would be why. The way that he was coming up with the odds of that there is he literally took the planets and assumed that there was a 50% chance they'd spin clockwise and 50 that they'd go counterclockwise, and just applied that multiplier by 9 for each planet that he thinks there are, even though there are only 8. But we can include Pluto in this because he's including it. It's a dwarf planet, and it is, in fact, going around the sun in the same direction. But as we know, it wasn't just random chance. It had to do with the physics involved of the planets forming out of the dust that was floating through space that came together to form the planets.
That's very rare. And by the way, do not, during this conversation, do not say it was God's will. Because if you use God...
It wasn't. It was, again, physical law.
God, you have to read the Bible. And the Bible does not depict the Earth as a spinning ball in a sea of nothing at all.
The Bible depicts a lot of things that aren't necessarily literally true. You could be a Christian and still believe in the morals of the Bible without necessarily thinking it's entirely scientifically accurate. Because, yeah, the Bible in Genesis describes the world as flat. It talks about the firmament, which is what flat earthers talk about all the time. And that was a, worldview for a while, but it's not the case.
So you can't have it both ways, guys. You can't have a firmament, 4 corners, God sits up and looks at us like grasshoppers. You can't have that and a spinning ball and nothing. Okay, listen. Just please listen, because it's impossible. All right, next up on the solar system model, it's on a flat plane. Not just is the solar system a flat plane, the entire Milky Way galaxy is a flat plane.
What do you mean by flat? Because it's a disk, I suppose, but that has to do with, again, it's because of the physical laws, it's spinning around a central point. But, like, it's pretty thick. Like, how thick is the galaxy? The Milky Way is the second largest galaxy in the local group after the Andromeda Galaxy, which, with its stellar disk approximately 170 to 200,000 light years in diameter on an average, 1,000 light years thick. So it's thick. The galaxy we live in is quite thick. Thick galaxy.
Want to talk about flat Earth? Oh, flat earthers. You're saying that after a Big Bang, even with the law of thermodynamics called entropy, which we'll get to in a second, somehow our galaxy ended up being a perfectly flat plane where all the planets spin in the same direction. The odds of that are
For one thing, I don't think it is a flat plane. Like, hold on. You can see a GIF of what it looks like going through space. Solar system moving through space. It's often depicted as a completely flat plane because of simplicity, just to show you it. But, like, it's not quite. Things move around, you know? We're moving through space over time. So, it's not exactly flat. Right? It looks more like that. Okay? We just depict it as such in images because it's a simple way of showing the different planets and their, like, relative positions.
Less than winning the Mega Lotto every single day for thousands of years. Understand that. Now look at the moon. The moon is a perfect circle. The odds that happened after...
It's not a perfect circle. For instance, for one thing, it's not a circle at all. It's a sphere. Although, looking at it, it looks like a circle because if you look at any face of a sphere, it looks like a circle. But it does have craters and stuff all over it. It's not exactly perfect. I don't know if it has a equator bulging like the Earth does, but it's certainly not a perfect sphere.
Big Bang and just chaos of atoms and particles and dust and rocks colliding is zero.
No, because gravity pulls things together, and when you have things with gravity in a vacuum, they're going to come together and form a sphere. That's just, like, again, physical law.
The odds are literally zero. There's no force, there's no wind, there's no erosion, there's no water, there's no force acting upon that moon that would make it a perfect sphere.
Gravity. Gravity is the force that you're describing.
Next up, why are the craters all perfect spheres? The way asteroids hit, side angle, we've never witnessed an asteroid, okay? The odds that the spin of the...
Craters on the moon are not perfect spheres. From far away, they might look quite circular, but again, if you have anything hit the ground, the impact... Let's see. Non-spherical craters on the moon. That one's a sphere, this one's oblong, this one is a little bit of a sphere, but I'd say it's, like, not quite circular. Let's see, we have, again, sort of oblong, weirdly shaped, but this is due to the fact that, once again, asteroids and meteors that cause the craters on the moon, well, not perfect spheres, are going to often be rounded shapes. Because that's what happens when you have stuff floating through space. When it comes together to form, it creates spheres. Because it's always being pulled towards the center of gravity, which is going to be the center of mass for the sphere. So as it builds up, it's going to build up more or less equally on all sides. That's why things in space are rounded like that.
The moon is exactly the same speed as it rotates around the Earth, again, are zero. If it was 1/4 of 1 mile per hour different, it would slowly turn.
Okay, but that's because of tidal locking. Tidal locking, it's called. Basically, gravity has... let's look up tidal locking. Tidal locking. Tidal locking is the phenomenon by which a body has the same rotational period as its orbital period around a partner. So the moon is tidally locked to the Earth because it rotates in exactly the same time as it takes to orbit the Earth. That is why we only see one side of the moon. The effect arises between two bodies when their gravitational interaction slows a body's rotation until it becomes tidally locked. Over millions of years, the interaction forces change to their orbits and rotation rates as a result of energy exchange and heat dissipation. When one of the bodies reaches a state where there is no longer any net change in its rotational rate over the course of a complete orbit, it is said to be tidally locked. The object tends to stay in this state when leaving. It would require adding energy back into the system. The object's orbit may migrate over time so as to undo the tidal lock, for example, if a giant planet perturbs the object. And many other moons in the solar system are also tidally locked to their planets. This is not unique to the Earth's moon, Luna. It is, again, a result of planetary physics, of how motion happens in space.
The fact it doesn't, and there is zero physics explanations with the model of gravity as we know it.
It would have taken 5 seconds to Google tidal locking. I just did it. There's a whole Wikipedia page on it.
To explain why the moon, why its axis rotation is exactly matching it rotate around us so that we only see one side.
About the tools of capitalism.
Light being shined upon.
Mock Turtleneck with 100 bits. Did you see the quartering deleted his Twitter? Fantastic. Good.
The sphere does not make the luminescence the same all the way across. You can do a test with a tennis ball and a flashlight. It's impossible. It can't happen. It only happens on two-dimensional objects.
Wait, what did he say?
It's impossible same all the way across. You can do a test with a tennis ball and a
It isn't the same all the way across. We covered that the other day on a video.
flashlight. It's impossible. It can't happen. It only happens on two-dimensional objects. Seeing as you've only seen one side of the moon because of its miraculous rotation and its perfect circle, and the fact that the luminescence is the same across the whole thing, implies, I'm not stating this, it implies it's a two-dimensional object.
No, it does not.
A lot more than it's a spinning sphere out of the chaos of the Big Bang.
You can see video of the dark side of the moon from the various trips that have been taken to it. But of course, you're going to say those things are fake. But, you know, to a rational person who understands that Occam's razor sort of dictates that the most reasonable explanation is we actually went to the moon. Because if we didn't, we would have had to fake it in such a way that our global rivals, the Soviet Union, never figured it out.
Okay?
Silly.
The size and weight of the moon, according to science.
Yeah, this guy is dumb. Not only that, he's actually a Nazi, too. He's a white supremacist. Fun fact.
It's impossible for it to be rotating around our Earth. The way the Earth was, the way the moon was created, according to mainstream science, is that an object the size of Mars hit our Earth and created the moon.
Let's see. How was the moon formed? Let's see how big the thing that hit the Earth was. The moon formed during a collision between the Earth and another small planet about the size of Mars. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's see a depiction of it. Ooh. Fun. That would be cool to see from space.
That's nonsense. We would have rings like Saturn. Where's all the dust? Where's all the debris? Where's everything? That all just disappeared?
Gravity pulled it together into the moon. That's how the moon formed. That's how the moon formed, friendo.
That makes no sense at all. Next up, the sun is 400 times bigger and miraculously 400 times farther away than the moon. And like two machine-cut quarters, they line up perfectly to make an eclipse.
Yeah, just about. It's pretty fantastic.
The odds of that are 1 in trillions times 1 in trillions times 1 in trillions.
Where are you getting that math? Genuinely. You have absolutely no math to show on that front. Is it unlikely? Yeah. But unlikely things do sometimes happen. Like, just a neat thing.
It's not possible. That the perfect circles in this world, which can't happen on the moon given the existing model, line up perfectly with something 400 times larger from a third factor, which is your fixed position on an Earth, that they claim is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, the shadow of the eclipse is 70 miles wide. There is no way to make a shadow smaller than the object.
Oh god, here we go. Shadow smaller than object. This is just objectively false. I've seen videos on this. Da, 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 da.
Basically, I have two nails here that are the same diameter, and I'm going to leave one of them, this one, static, and I'm going to move the other one closer to the light source, and we're going to check what happens. And as you can see, the shadows are both really dark right now, and if I move this one closer to the light source, what happens is that the overall shadow gets larger, but the really dark bit, the umbra, is getting smaller. And that's why during a solar eclipse, the shadow cast by the moon is smaller than the moon. And in fact, if I move it even closer to the light source, what happens is that I don't really have a dark spot anymore. The shadow just becomes all blurry, really large, but all blurry. And that's why if Mercury or Venus moves in front of the sun, we don't really have an eclipse going on. It might get a tiny bit darker, but we don't have an eclipse. So let me just move it closer now.
There you go. Yes, it can.
Of course, there are people that say umbra because, like goats, they've been trained to say that, but they cannot recreate an umbra on Earth.
We literally just saw a video of someone doing it, like very clearly with household objects that you could do yourself.
They only believe it because they've been indoctrinated to believe it since the time of their birth by people who want to remove their connection to God. Okay, next up, evolution. So we have something called the Big Bang.
What does this have to do with the moon? Oh no, it says moon hoax and evolution. Okay, we can cover this.
Which is the ultimate chaotic event. What banged? Who banged it? Why did it bang? How did everything come from a fixed point? Don't even try and tackle that because it makes zero sense.
Just because it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean no one understands it. We have a lot to learn still about the origins of our universe, but something being unexplained doesn't make it inexplicable.
But here's something that you can easily think of, and it disproves everything about mainstream science. The law of entropy is that matter and energy naturally go from order to chaos.
In closed systems. The Earth is not a closed system. The Earth is receiving energy from the sun.
If you break a glass, even after 1 billion years, the broken shards will not reform into the glass because objects have a tendency.
Are glasses self-replicating animals? Are they single-celled organisms that can replicate based on natural selection, receiving energy from the sun, allowing them to grow, change, mutate, reproduce, and create better versions of themselves? No. Then it's not an applicable metaphor.
Tendency towards entropy, towards dissolving, towards breaking apart. Whether it's empires or a broken glass, the longer you wait, the more the broken shards become sand. They get ground down, they will never go the other direction. So how do we have a human eyeball from a Big Bang?
Because in the system that we are in, the Earth, it's receiving energy from the sun. And with that energy input, we have what is essentially a little pocket of order in an empty universe, right? But entropy still applies. Someday, the sun will die, the Earth will stop receiving energy, and the universe will continue on unabated. Just because there are small pockets, the context being like something like a planet like Earth and a sun giving it energy, can create systems via natural selection that allow for what seem to be complex organisms, doesn't mean that entropy no longer applies. We still age and die. The sun is also aging and will one day die, one way or another. At some point, the heat death of the universe will happen, It just so happens that we are lucky enough to be the ones that are here. And again, I know lucky's kind of a rough thing to say here. I'm basically being a puddle, being glad that I'm in, a hole that fits me perfectly. But you know what I mean. We happen to be in a place that allows us to get energy from the sun without it killing us entirely. Most of the time, skin cancer is a thing. And we've been able to develop consciences and thoughts and feelings, and those are all wonderful things, but it has nothing to do with entropy.
The Big Bang happens, and it creates a never-ending waterfall, cascade, domino effect of atoms smashing against each other in an empty darkness for eternity. So given the law of entropy, that things go from order to chaos,
in a closed system, the Earth is not a closed system.
how on earth do we have the structure of a human eyeball?
The sun giving energy to life on this planet that then reproduces and uses the process of natural selection to select out those to breed that are most fit for their environments.
In which we can see light and then recreate the light in our minds as images that represent our physical reality. It contradicts to a point of laughable mockery.
No, you just don't understand the processes that you're discussing. Knowing the word for something doesn't mean you understand it.
Okay, now understand that if anyone says, well, sexual selection, Big Bear, over long periods of time, I used to believe this stuff too. I believed all of it. I loved astronomy. I minored in evolution in college.
I don't think you can minor or major in just evolution. If you're talking about specifically evolutionary biology, it seems like that would be a thing you would specialize in after getting your general biology degree. I don't know, though.
I loved thinking about how the environment would interact with a human being, increase their odds of procreation or decrease their odds of procreation, and certain genes would pass.
Like, you could get a PhD in biology and specialize in evolutionary biology, but your degree would not say, here's your degree in evolution. So he's talking out of his butt. He's just lying here.
Nonsense. You're telling me that force that created the human eyeball, which is unbelievably complicated, that through a long process of light hitting cells and then becoming rods and cones, if that's from sexual selection...
Hushed Bunny Von Octopi, thanks for following.
Why does our skin burn in the sun?
Because the sun is radiation.
Why do I need an umbrella right now so that my skin doesn't become red and cancerous?
Because you are descended from a group of people further away from the equator. They experienced less sun during the day. Therefore, the melanin levels in their skin reduced over time, because that's how evolution works. So, you, living in an area with more sun or whatever, unfortunately, suffer as a consequence.
Well, Big Bear, it's because you're from the north. Why don't I have hair on my body? Why would I die outside in 30-degree weather without a structure around me?
Because human beings learned tool usage, we became Homo sapiens, and over time, after we replaced some of the physical need for things like fur, this happened earlier in earlier hominids too, but I'm specifically talking just about Homo sapiens, we started using our ingenuity that was also developed via evolution to invent things like clothing, to take the furs of other animals. And when it was no longer necessary to have fur all over our body, it evolved away, because evolution will always trend towards streamlining energy usage. If it's superfluous for your body to be covered in a thick layer of fur, eventually, evolution will do away with that. Most likely. But even so, you do have hair on your body. You can still see it. It's not completely gone.
If my people came from Northern Europe, which they did for so long, how come I didn't evolve to not die in the snow and then die in the sun?
Because people wear clothes.
If sexual selection actually had an impact on us, like they say it did, if we can evolve to have the complexity of a human eyeball out of a big bang, even though that goes against entropy.
Noodles Lolcat says your reason for sphere craters is wrong. Craters are usually spherical because of pressure. When an object, sorry, the chat's moving. When an object hits another object, pressure is created. This pressure punches everything away from it. If the rock is the same density everywhere throughout the crater, it will create a relatively spherical crater. Science, when done correctly, is far cooler than religion. Oh, interesting. Cool. Thanks for the correction.
Why on earth have we evolved to not have skin that's resistant to the one constant in our life at all times, which is the sun and then the winter?
Because evolution isn't some process that literally thinks to itself at all, much less going, the sun is dangerous, we must create armor for these human beings. It would be nice if that happened, but there wasn't a mutation that made you immune to the sun or cold. That would be incredibly difficult. Who knows if human beings somehow live another, 20 million years. Maybe that will happen. I doubt it. But
it doesn't make any sense, right? So what is the point of all of this? Is this supposed to give you despair and fear? No. It's removing it. We were created. That glass that was broken was a glass because someone made it. So someone made us to have eyes to see, ears to hear, a mouth to taste, hands to touch, a woman to love, a child to hold, right? That is love. And so what's the purpose of life? Serving that which gave us all of it.
Gross.
God. And they want you to think that we are on a spinning ball in an infinite black, and every atom that just smashes together randomly eventually became your parents who randomly fucked and are now silently watching NCIS in some long, weird, passive-aggressive game.
I think you just revealed a little too much about your family there. Look, if the randomness of the universe makes you feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry. There might be ways to cope with that, but reality is what it is. Like, you don't get to retreat into some fantasy world because the real world is scary. I personally think the reality of where we live is neat, but if that's scary to you, I'm sorry. Reality is what it is.
And you're just here to randomly smash your genitals against someone. No fucking way, guys. That's despair. That's the world where you need medication to get out of bed. That's the world where you can be easily tricked because you have nothing to be grateful for or nothing.
You might need some medication. That would be good.
Nothing to live for. When you know that your eyes of your children were created, that means whoever created it loves you. So serve that who loves you, which is your creator. There is no way that moon just got this. The story is an endless serpent distracting you from God's love and making you sad and full of despair.
You can recognize the reality of the world existing as a result of physical laws and the fact that we evolved and still believe in God. I don't, but there are plenty of Christians all around the world who also understand the reality of evolution and the reality of how our planet came to be. You don't need to be a creationist to be a Christian, or at least not a young Earth creationist.
You're made in love. Your soul matters. Your choices matter. God loves you. Why would God give you eyes that can see your wife holding a baby?
Why did God not give me eyes that can see the vast majority of the electromagnetic spectrum? Why did he only give me eyes that can see this much, the visible spectrum? Why did God not give me laser eyes? Actually, question, why did God allow us to get skin cancer and not protect us from the rays of the sun? Because all these things could be explained via evolution, you know? Evolution is a process that over long periods of time will trend towards things that are better for the survivability of a species or for its propagation. But it's not this perfect process that knows what it's doing and has some inner mind that's creating things intentionally. However, if there were a God, him not doing these things would raise questions, because he's supposed to be perfect and supposed to love you and care about you. But apparently, God has a huge boner for the sunscreen industry. It just seems odd. Thank you to Feminist Critique Pod for 25 bits, who said, before I became an atheist, I used the theory of evolution as a means to justify the creation story because of how well it fits if you look at the metaphorical sense. Sure.
That came out of chaos? No. Why would God make all these unbelievable nonsense things that everyone tries to explain away? None of the scientists have any cohesion whatsoever.
What?
You know, they just changed the time frame of the Big Bang by 1 billion years. And
okay, science is a process of refinement? Like, everything is a tentative answer in science? It's fine.
No one batted an eye because
I don't know anything about that. Let's see. Big Bang time frame news. Big Bang time frame change. $13.7 billion years ago. That still says 13.7. I don't see anything about it changing. Did he read one article that implied there might be readings that say it's older, and he decided that it meant that the consensus had changed?
because they are not walking with God. Have gratitude. When you have gratitude towards your creator, and it's so simple. Just be thankful every day. Be thankful that this was created, that this isn't random results of genital smashing. And then when you're thankful, when you say, thank you, God, God says, no problem.
Even if God existed, you would still be the result of your parents smashing genitals randomly. Like, what?
God is everything, guys. This is created. The purpose of your life is to have gratitude and purpose and serve God. That which made you. Science didn't give you eyes.
Natural selection did.
Random fucking over 1 billion years didn't give you ears.
It did, actually. That is, like, literally, yeah, basically, yeah.
God did. And that's logic.
No, that's religious dogma.
Do you think logic and math explains how our fucking solar system and galaxy is a straight, flat plane?
Yes.
And even though we have the law of entropy, for some reason, the most complicated physical things that we can't imagine just came out of fucking? You're out of your mind.
The Bible kind of starts with, like, Adam and Eve smashing. They smash, and then they have Cain and Abel. And then Cain smashes Abel's head. That's not a genital thing, though. And then the other ones smash, and they make a bunch of people. So, MMO addicted with 100 bits. Science fixed your eyes from -14 dioptries to 6 cylinders of astigmatism to nearly perfect vision.
That is the illogic. Logic comes from a word, guys. Logos, logic. It's the same word, the word. God, form, natural law. It's all the same thing.
No. Again, what is with these conspiracy people and trying to use word etymology as some sort of gotcha? Words change over time. Their meanings change. Just because you can go back and try and find, like, a meaning of a word and then use that, which is the word, and then say that the word, even though it didn't mean this to the classical Greeks who coined the term, you know, logos, to say that it means, like, the word of God. It's ridiculous.
You know what is real and what is not real. And when you know truth will set you free, work will set you free. Labor, truth, love, family, soil. That's That's what's real.
Ooh, soil. Bringing a little bit of his Nazi shit into this.
Then you won't fall for these tricks.
Blood and soil is a Nazi thing, if anyone doesn't know.
What about eternal hellfire? Is that love? Hell is not walking with God. Hell is not being with God. And if that's hellfire, that's what it is. But I see people in hell every day of my life. Every day of my life, I see people in hell because they aren't with God. Life is a scary, random, lustful, envious, rage-driven mess. And they can't make heads or tails of it. They have no purpose. They're chasing an imaginary square backed by no value. They have no love. They're in their basement. And they see someone like me and they don't understand me. And they hate me. They think I'm crazy. They're
In fairness, they're not wrong.
fucking ghouls, guys. They're currently in hell. And until they take salvation, until they admit salvation, until they admit they are blessed, guys, it's not subservience. It's not doing like admitting that you were made in love and that you should honor your father is not slavery. Hell is slavery.
Okay, I wouldn't normally on this stream go into this, but like, this guy's grating on me. Okay. So within the context of Christianity, God creates hell. God creates Satan. God allows people into a garden with the serpent, who isn't necessarily said to be Satan, but Christians say that the serpent is Satan, so let's go with that. God knows what's going to happen. God knows human beings are going to sin, because he's omnipotent and omniscient. So he knows everything and has all the power to change anything he wants. So he puts a world with sin into motion, and then demands subservience from the beings he created. And if they don't obey him, he will punish them for eternity in a hell that he created. That to me sounds like slavery, with extra steps, right? Just saying.
These people who can't speak my name anymore, they're fucking serfs. They're serfs on this planet. You can give them as many shiny toys as you want, as many Netflix specials and bling bling and Ranger panties. Guys, they're fucking serfs.
Lance?
And people like me are a reminder of their cowardice, and they hate me for it. I see it every fucking day. And so that's why we have 5,000 people here right now listening, because this is more true than anything they see on the media, because the media is designed to distract from you. It's a weapon of mass distraction. Stay away from God. Stay away from God. Stay away from God. It's random, random, random. Hate, hate, hate. There's a reason you have a repentant heart. Exactly. Admit you're fallen. You are not God. You did not make this. You can put on a lab coat all you want. You aren't God. You're a fucking monkey. Admit it. And then you're free. Then
Excuse me, sir. I am an ape and a hominid.
you can be really human. Then you can... we are nothing compared to what we can be if we honor God and have gratitude. Like, look at the pyramids, guys. They made the pyramids. Why are we just glossing over all this shit? Our history is grand.
Wait, who made the pyramids?
Like,
Egyptians made the pyramids.
we have a history that we aren't allowed to know. Think about why we're here. We're not designed for this environment. We burn in the sun and we freeze in the cold. We're slow, fat, animal. We're not animals with no fangs, no claws, but we got logos. We got consciousness. We're awake. We have souls. We have free will. Does that make sense to you guys? It should. And there's people that spend their entire lives, because they've believed the whispers of Satan, that we are parasites on this earth. That success is about money.
No, we're not parasites. We're just living animals on the planet, like the other ones.
And it's about prestige. And you don't want to...
So why did this guy leave YouTube? I think he got banned because he was a Nazi.
wear the crown of thorns. The origin story of evolution started with lightning struck a primordial soup, making amino acids.
We don't necessarily know that. That's a hypothesis. That's like abiogenesis, but there's also like panspermia. There, you know, we don't know. We don't know. There are multiple hypotheses out there about how life began on planet Earth. We have no idea.
It's never
I shouldn't say no idea. We just don't know for sure.
been recreated. It's never been witnessed. Isn't that what science is supposed to be? You can give me 1,000 labs, and you'll never show me even a bacteria with a life cycle of 1 second have a child from a mother that wasn't the same species. It's
Because that's not how evolution works. Evolution is gradient. You don't have an animal one day have a baby that is of a different species. You have a baby that's slightly different than the parent, and then that baby has one that's even slightly different than itself, and it's even more different from the grandparent because it's another generation removed, and on and on and on and on and on until you're, 1,000 generations later, 10,000 generations later, and you can see a distinct difference between the first one you started with and the end result. Evolution isn't this sudden, jerky thing where, one day you have a baby and it's completely different. It's a slope. It's a slow gradient.
It's never happened. How can you see that as gospel? It's lies to the point of nonsense. How did we evolve our intelligence from monkeys
Apes.
and then lost all of our physical ability to survive and only started using our intelligence for...
We haven't lost all our physical ability to survive. You're outside right now. You're fine. Human beings evolved the capacity to reason, to build shelter, to come up with new ideas of how to survive. In fact, we've thrived. It's why we're the dominant apex predator on this planet. Like, that's our thing, is inventing and being able to engineer solutions to problems.
4,000 years ago. Guys, and it doesn't take a high IQ to see it. It takes an honest mind. It takes a faithful mind, and it takes a grateful mind. Have fucking gratitude. All right, I gotta go. Jack's here. Subscribe to unauthorized.tv. P.O. Box 727, Gig Harbor, Washington. All right, have a great day, everybody. And just remember, you have more value than... They're tricking you into thinking that you don't have an eternal soul and that you don't have value. And it's really sick, and it stops. Now,
It's not a trick. Evolution's real. The moon is real. The Earth's a sphere. Deal with it. You can have your religious beliefs, but, reality's reality. Alright, so that's gonna be the stream for today. Thank you to everyone who has come to this episode of Tin Foil Tuesday. Oh, hold on. Let me, Hannah, wait. Hannah reloaded YouTube? That's not what I want. I'm gonna put a link to my channel on YouTube in the chat. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's where I post not only my full streams, but I put stream highlights, so if you just want to watch, individual segments that are 20 minutes, 8 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, they're all on there, and they're organized by topic, so if you just want Tinfoil Tuesday stuff, that's under Conspiracy Debunks. If you want just Flat Earth stuff, we have it. We have Chud Watch. We have, I just created a politics playlist for when we talk about explicitly political topics. We have Sovereign Citizens, Karen Freakouts, Wheel Streams, which is where I spin the wheel and do videos based on what it lands on. It's a good time, so check it out. Other than that, I hope you all have a great night. We're going to raid Chud Logic.